Good morning to you, my friends, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here from Maui, Hawaii, United States of America, July 22nd, 2021. Welcome here into my temporary abode. Today's sharing, very personal, spontaneous. Is death really something to fear? That's not really the right word for me. Is death really something to reflect upon, contemplate, consider as motivator? It's so used within the broader, deeper, global Dharma, Dhamma, Buddhist, spiritual world as intrinsically provocative enough that it should motivate one to be the best they can be. I want to talk about that. I'm not so sure about that. And secondly, is the moment, that moment, this thing right now, N-O-W, now, is the moment really all that important as priority of placement of being? Is the moment all that important as priority of placement of being? I mean, here we are already here. Why emphasize the obvious? You know? And I know everything is going to be graded on a spectrum of relativity. It's one thing to be present, it's another thing to be in learning, another thing to be in transformation. And I would quite frankly prefer to be in safety, of trust and continuity, of all things working out well, rather than just simply cutting things back, always back here, right now. Now, this is just the serendipity of play. I was out last night with several friends. Beautiful evening, lovely evening. I'm enjoying the process of reacquainting myself to the Dhamma life in context, with people, in conversation, with lighting, with food, with tonality, with language, with proximity, physicality, intimacy, spatial relationships. That process, that aesthetic, that beautiful mosaic that's co-created when people, you and me, family, friends, lovers, enemies, people get together and commune. That aesthetic is, needless to say, to state the obvious, everything. My point here is that, okay, there's a preoccupation that being present in the present phenomena of here and now, somehow being everything here and now, being present, really, 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 really present, to the point where you're in flow and you're tuning out the rest of the world, somehow that is the goal of the Dharma life, the spiritual life, the yoga life. To be in that level of here I am, enjoying the moment. And obviously I'm playing this out. I'm not so keen or I don't think I'm that down with that story anymore, frankly. Death, coming back to the issue of death, the inbuilt biological mortality within the birth process, the evolutional growth, old aging process, if we get so lucky. Mortality. Why does playing on that fact, reality, get used so much, bantered around so much, to induce supposedly a higher fidelity of qualities of being? Like, I'm eating something right now and I'm going to contemplate death at the end of this meal. Will that make me really want to eat what I'm eating more mindfully, more present? Or will I want to stop eating and situate within a more relaxed spaciousness that allows myself to spontaneously reflect on my life with my parents, the love of a fantasy, the dream of an epic lover that's way beyond my memory condition of here and now with the people I'm with, the free flowing of spontaneous integrity over the placement or the location-based dharma of here, with it always being graded with, if you only knew that you were going to die with every out-breath, you would live so fully. I think it's way overrated to think that death need be used more than it's already obvious that discontinuity is inbuilt to the system of biological cognitive hardwiring. You know, many of you know, many of you don't know, if you're tuning in or you'll listen to this at some point today or whatever. I've been, last month, a few months back, diagnosed with this ascending, acutely enlarged aorta aneurysm. It's the largest artery out of the heart. And my surgeons in LA, who I spoke with this morning, which is bringing a lot of this up, because they want me to come back to do tests, which I'm likely to do soon. They've given me this prognosis that we're all going to die, but you're going to die really quickly. Okay, that's the deal. Everyone's going to die, it's obvious, but you're going to die really, really quickly unless you undergo like surgery 4 months ago. We've been on this ticking bomb clock for now 4 months, according to the doctors this morning, talking to them online. And you've gotten a reprieve. You've made it for 4 months post-diagnoses at UCLA Medical Emergency Room. And how's it going? How are you feeling? What do you want to do? And I'm thinking, quite frankly, I want to drop the death story. I like something to do with not thinking that the loss of something is going to induce higher motivation to live. I like the notion today that I'm going to just casually walk into town, say hello to a few friends, talk to the woman and the gentleman behind the checkout counter there at Makawao Foods and see what they've made. There's a joyous exchange there. There's an anticipation of future. But the idea that that might be interrupted along the way with lightning or the rupture of an aorta or an aberrant tourist who just doesn't like someone looking like me and runs me over, or a rabid dog jumps around my neck along with a viper and kills me on the spot, or all of a sudden my karma comes in and all of a sudden, who knows what. Well, all those catastrophic death things don't do shit for me. There's nothing better about my life now that I'm speaking to myself here, if this has any value. There's nothing I feel more enhanced about my life now that I've been diagnosed with what they call a ticking bomb of an aneurysm that's ready to rupture of any second. It's not frightening, it's just bullshit. It's like, I've joked about it endlessly on stages and in live streams and with friends, that existence is a fucking bad design. I mean, it shouldn't be designed this way. But since it is designed this way, it's like re-instigating this thing called, if you only knew you had 24 hours to live, wow, wouldn't it set your life on fire? No, not at all. It makes you stressful, it's shocking, it induces anxiety. it disrupts everything. You can hardly plan. You're unmotivated. It's like in-breath, out-breath, neither wish to live nor fear dying. It's a whole different thing to talk about the fear of something when it's right there. Your fingertips are on the cliff. And I would give anything for normalcy. I feel a little bit like robbed, although, hey man, you're making choices for the future of your own existence. But I guess my point here is this, maybe it's an issue of language, how you use the word death. When I think about death, I don't think of like the end of human life. I feel very connected to, what's the word, a type of evolutional migration, a consciously engaged, mindful evolution, where I am moving in this shape-shifting chrysalis of cognitive, physical, biological, existential skins with multiple identities within that epidermis or those epidermises. And I'm navigating. And the idea how death is often, oh my God, you're going to miss out on something on earth. When I think of rebirthing rather than death, I kind of like get up for the party. Like, I'd like to have a party tonight. Rebirthing is a little bit like that party feeling. And when I think about navigating mindfully in the Dharma that I understand to be the Dharma of navigation, I think about how to place these cognitive conditions and these identities and feelings and do all that I can. You know, I'm going to walk into town today. I want to walk the right way. I want to navigate into this life to the next life as much as possible. So much of I guess what I'm pointing to here is this cutting things back to the moment, being present. My friend, as I mentioned to several people last night, my very dear friend who died of early onset Alzheimer's, it really exaggerated this thing about being present. Because when you lose memory, as I watched my very dear friend lose his short-term memory, his medium memory, his long-term memory, and everything was as if he was an enlightened meditator in this moment only, right here and now, only right now, without cognitive causal conditions to uniformly create a past, present, and future. When there's only right now, it's a very crazy dynamic to not know the next in the future, in your daughter's name, your wife's name, your friend's name, where your car keys are. So we live in these what do you call the rhizome, these root systems, these branches, these light waves. And I'm not sure if I'm even making sense here, but I'm trusting that I'm just going to trust myself. That even like I've been using it so much, Danceful with the Angel of Death, and the Buddhist three heavenly messengers, old age, disease, and death, motivated him to snap out of the collective coma of living the high life as an Indian prince and choose to do the renunciate act. When I look at that today, and I'm really in my free thinking mind, well, he was living in a high life of Indian privilege and needed something to snap him out of the coma of his conformity to privilege. But for me, I've been working from a young age, and quite frankly, what motivates me, the heavenly messengers, I was thinking about it this morning, talking to my doctors. A heavenly messenger for me that excites me is about how this moment isn't enough. And that if I'm only a little bit clever and I make what I've been introduced to a really deep existential, psychologically fully embodied decree, that on the grace of goodness, I will bequeath myself with the most magnificent goddess of my dreams and dance in these frolicking escapades of bliss and joy. The party, bring it on. Tonight is a far better event than the process from here to there. And I'm thinking a heavenly messenger for me would be the motivation of love, not death, but envisioning the attributes of the worthiness of one's own soul, the goodness of one's own being. To me, it's the opposite of the Indian motivations, the subcontinent in South Africa or in China or in India or in Burma. All of those motivations just don't really cut it right now. Especially being given this diagnosis of without surgery, you're going to die, Mr. Clements. It's something just boring and shocking and kind of weird to think of that as a reason to live so well that I'm going to drink my coffee like I've never drunk it before. Rather, I'm thinking, what could I do if I'm so lucky to live into the evening or into the weekend? Who do I want to be with? What will I want to do? Who would I like to be in love with or make love with or be naked with or recite or create a poem with or to write the first few paragraphs of a novel or to meditate or to do yoga together or to walk on the beach? It's the anticipation and the play and the aesthetics of joy, love, arrival, rebirthing, nibbānification, ubuntufication. Not these horror stories of only here, only now. My friend Tom, when he was only here and only now, he couldn't put it all together anymore. And yet, when we really allow ourselves in the artistry, in the play of creating beautiful experiences, time is so important. Duration is so important. And the anticipation of love as a heavenly messenger, rather than old age of like, oh my God, I'm going to get old. I better really make haste. Well, I've been making haste since I was a young child. Maybe you have too. A greater motivation for me is adventure. I feel a little confined and it's like, oh God, now I'm in a suburb and it's like really fucking boring. And where's the mysticism? Is it coming back to the moment and being present? Should I meditate more? No. I want to release myself more into the magic of creating soirees of elegant, erotic splendor, art forms of romantic, transcendental beauty. So I'm reinventing in this talk some of the heavenly messengers that really motivate me, and maybe some of the things that you often think of as what you should contemplate in order to motivate you, being present in this moment and reflecting on the privilege of being alive today because you're going to die tomorrow. What about high luminous states of transcendental mystical adventure, Alan? What would you like to do this week or this month? Dream, the heavenly messenger of the dream. And if not in this life, who and where do you want to create it in the Deva realms that you feel destined based on your navigational skills to embody, to be in the company of your samsaric sangha, to be in the party with Maitreya, the future Buddha? That gives me a lot of joy. That's like bring on death, not fear it. Bring it on. Let me bring on the opposite of death, which is living into life. Take the death out of it, right? Isn't that the word nibbāna? The deathless? So I hear myself Why bring in death as a heavenly messenger when the word nibbāna, the deathless, the nibbānification, the love of the unconditional, the love of the erotic, the romantic, the dreamer, the adventurer. And the last heavenly messenger I want to reinvent today is the beauty of learning. I just love learning. I want to read more, study more, learn more words. I want to listen to more people's poetry. Like last night with these several divine heavenly messenger friends that I have not seen in a while except for one of them. And you could see and feel in the co-creative shared aesthetic of people weren't just being present, but the playful willingness to engage all of their memory, the willingness to engage past experiences, and some of them brought up historical events and brought the fidelity of that past experience into the radiance of a shared space with all of us. Without the access to all of those insights of the past, why would being present be so important? So there's so many skills than cutting things back to only now. The past is not the past and not to be marginalized. The future is not to be seen as something yet to come. But we're living in this big, big rainbow effect of rebirthing. Who knows where my heart originated, where my feet are placed in some historic event epochs ago. I guess the point of what I'm sharing today, ultimately in my own sharing, is challenge sacred platitudes. Make a list of 10 words that you conveniently attribute. I'm going to do this myself. That you conveniently attribute to sacred certainties. Being present, living now, meditation, gratitude, trauma, freedom, the vision of your ideal lover, self-respect. These words, the constellation that informs our own identity, and to bring into fidelity the heightened expression of these words in new ways. And may I invite you, as I end today, to challenge platitudes, challenge convenient labels to define how you think you need to think and feel and be in order to be the most authentic, radical, lover, mystical adventure in transformational learning that you can be. Now that I've been practicing being in the moment for 5 decades, and now I've been diagnosed with this fatal, very complicated illness. And now that I'm looking at death up close, it's not altogether that enviable. There's something in the elasticity of life, in the co-creative beauty of knowing that you're going to see your daughter and trusting in that, in the safety of those forms, in the co-creative splendor of exhibiting and manifesting beautiful states of mind. I think the anticipation of heightened states of cognitive, psychological, existential arrival, the joy of creation, the joy of adventure. These are the things that get me out of bed, not the absence of them. And if you get struck down in the process of your art, that's inevitable, that's natural. That's who we are as being, cognitive, breathing entities here on this sphere spinning through eternity. So from my heart to yours, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of my life. And I am leaving today with the beginning of a bit of a self-challenge of how to foster a greater radiance, if you will, of a visionary desire. The actualization of hope made real on the canvas of an aesthetic, a smell, a taste, an embodiment. The anticipatory process of co-creating through choices and decisions, calling in through decree, right? Calling in through high radiant hope. A uniformity of completeness. That's what it is. It's the recognition of completeness or the evolution of wholeness through other. I'm feeling here on Mother Maui, Sister Maui, Lover Maui, the desire to be in greater unification with the feminine and with the transcendental, with the mystical adventurer, with the heightened immortal lover that isn't necessarily defined and confined by illness, age, disease, time, finances, looks, that primordial wonderment of completeness through the serendipity of beautiful meetings. I'm looking forward to the mystery of the day, the week, the month, not the absence of it. It's the joy of that anticipation, not the attachment to it, but the joy of it that I think will create greater buoyancy and bounce in my step and perhaps even ultimately cure this aneurysm. So from my heart to yours, thank you for tuning in today. Hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you.